Good morning from Sacred Space at Titania's Realm. It's the 6th of March 2024, 10:18 a.m. It's a nice day today, a little bit light breezes, which is cooling. It's 27 degrees at the moment, and doesn't feel as hot as yesterday, which was only 25, so the humidity must be a bit less. I've put Charlie outside, had a relatively good sleep last night, which is great because I was starting to get quite bordering on psychosis, quite frankly, from all the lack of sleep. But I slept well last night, actually woke up at 8 a.m, only got up twice to pee last night, which was good. So I seemed the last two nights to be peeing less through the night, which after 44 days on that drug, one would hope that it's starting to work, right? Anyway, I don't dare get my hopes up because it's been a long haul. I'm a long hauler, people. Anyway, I feel a little bit better today. I've got a debrief with my my worthy psychiatrist today as well, but I feel good today. So far, so good. Today's offerings and readings will be a bit dark because it's my former dead father's birthday. So on we go, fighting my way through the darkest part of my trauma activations and memories of my family of origin. Tomorrow's my mother's yahrzeit, anniversary of her death, and the 8th is my grandmother's yahrzeit, although I'm not usually too affected by that because I never met my grandmother, and all I know about her was stories handed down by my mother, which were horrific given how violent she was to my mother. But again, that little one generation removed is you don't sort of tend to identify too much with it unless you live through it, first-hand experience. It's not quite the same identification, although the race memory and the intergenerational trauma is embedded down in your DNA, whether you met that person or not. So it's kind of a Kali goddess dance on the bodies of all the slain, really, trying to get blow life back into yourself from time to time. Anyway, title of today's reading is Trigger Warning. So trigger warnings, if you're not in a good headspace and you can't stand hearing anything painful, turn me off today. More than welcome to switch me off. But I continue. My father's birthday brings painful trauma memories every single year since his death in 2017, 3 days shy of his birthday. And with time and distance, it's 7 years now, I don't feel quite as in quite as much pain or excoriated. And part of that is I've received lots of love and sweetness and support in recent months from my acquaintances and friends in the Brisbane music scene who've been lovely, and as always I get a lot of support from my friend Lynn and Jared, and so I've felt very nurtured and protected and loved, and that helps me get through these dark times, right? Not only the dark times of our current epoch, but the dark times of my own personal histories as well. So, yes, here we go. We continue on. Here's a photo of my father when he was 21. Very attractive young man, very bright young man, uneducated, had to go to work, I think, when he was 14 or 15. and only ever worked in manual labouring jobs, although he was bright. And yes, unfortunately, very unwell person in his own being, and there's not much anyone can do about that. I can try to be compassionate, but at the end of the day, we all have choices in how we treat our children and adult children, and some of it was absolutely fucking evil. So I'm not going to make excuses for that anymore. In fact, I stopped making excuses for that when I was 20 for reasons delineated in other journaling that I've expressed to you quite openly on YouTube now. 6th of March 2023, 8:01 p.m. It was another scathing hot day. I was quite unwell with asthma and my gut. Dear Goddess. But I rallied my energies to go outside in the afternoon to practice melting copper and pouring it onto angle iron. Only half the amount melted. The crucible cracked apart, so I only got a 2.5-inch bar of copper. I ran out of oxygen in the C bottle, so I need to refill it, which I did indeed do, and then blew it all out when I burnt out the hoses not long after. Damn it. So I'll have to refill that when I get new little Smith torch kit. Excuse me. There's been a lot of demolitions around the area, so there's a lot of trucks coming and going. I was trying to figure out what was going on there, and I remembered gentrification of my neighbourhood, knocking down the old homes. They're dying to knock mine down, just dying to get their hands on this land and home, but I sit here holding on as long as I can, because it's my home and I'm happy living here. Simples. I also need to source a cup-shaped piece of steel to use as a crucible for melting copper in. The ceramic one I had was too small and couldn't take the heat. I also need to buy a new aluminium flask for Delft sand casting. Baby steps. Everything is on the other side of pain, illness, chronic fatigue, poverty, and all of these things I am pushing through each and every day. Happy Purim. The gods are watching my struggles and cheering me on, regardless. 11:13 a.m. Happy Purim this evening. Today marks my dead, ignominious, cuntish father's birthday. He would have been 95. I am not well. These personal hellish days of awfulness dog me every February and March, from February 28th, Case's birthday, until March 8th, my maternal grandmother's suicide date. Then I pick myself up and carry on in anticipation of my own birthday in April. But something feels different, something I can't quite define. Perhaps it's my own fragile health, but something has shifted. The dead cannot hurt me anymore, but they can haunt and taunt me on their anniversaries, but only because I am the memory keeper, and if I wanted to, I could obliterate all memory of them for eternity. If I could get hold of some psilocybin or MDMA and blow my brains out. But I like my brains. I want to hold on to them as long as possible. But they are part of my weft and warp of the gnarled, despotic tapestry of my very existence on this beautiful blue planet gone to hell. I can be grateful I was raised by hellhounds, halls of Babylon, and NPC-compliant zombies, as that gave me the gift of circumspection, so kept me safe from even worse fates and soul loss and degradation epitomised by this current epoch. My neshama, that means soul, is still pristine, even though decades of pain and unrequited love and rage and grief has made it shellacked and brittle. Leaky as a colander, but as Leonard Cohen wisely iterated, that is how the light gets in and flows in an endless streaming in the psychedelic dreaming that is love. So 2 more days of dark, dank horror, then I begin my climb up Jacob's ladder, clawing up the broken rungs, and kicked and farted on by hellish imps, and rested by the angels, by the hair on my chinny chin. Make that a double, will ya? Once again, another, oh yes, indeed it is a double chin, another year in paradise. Hold your head up, moving on. What magic shall I create by force of will between now and my birthday? And what magic shall I linger on for the rest of my days on earth? Watching the world burn and peel and stand anew in its own Phoenixian becoming. Ringside seats for the wise ones. Bring your knitting. Vive la révolution. Heads will roll. 12:12 a.m. Finally in bed. My asthma has been bad all day. For the past few days, really. I have also been beset by tummy troubles, so I feel rather fragile indeed. It was hot yesterday. I baked beehive muffins from a ceramic tin I bought from a second-hand shop that was manufactured by the Mormons in the United States. It came with its own recipe, but always makes far too much mixture, enough to partially fill another muffin pan. Then I went to West End drumming in the afternoon. I enjoyed myself even though I had to keep coughing with my asthma. Bobo barked at all the other dogs, so the pair of us were quite noisy. Then I came home and watched videos on casting metal, sterling silver or copper or gold even, by Craig Darbler on YouTube. I am determined to hone my new craft. 6th of March 2021. 8:27 a.m. Not much sleep again last night, even though I was exhausted all day yesterday. This body is manifesting its own energy now, without the coherence of my brain. What is she preparing for? It's a beautiful morning. The light is almost shimmery, and there's a cool breeze. And even the animals are contented. My lungs are not liking the sudden cooling, but I am happy about it. It was very humid last night. Maybe I should start sleeping outside in my hammock. It's not safe though. Shame about that. Anyway, expect crazy ramblings as lack of decent sleep launches me into hypomania. I was raised by jokers and clowns, stuck in the middle of their constructed maelstrom like a decades-long bad dream. As Lynn said to me yesterday, my mother's spell is finally broken. 11 years tomorrow after her death. 11 more years stolen from me. Probably explains, that was in 2021 I'm reading, but it probably explains why I started getting all these romantic overtures from men in 2022, 2023, started to just sort of flicker, because my mother indeed had some fucking black magic spell on me that was preventing me from succeeding in any aspect of my life and keeping me in a hell loop and keeping me in a state of unwellness and grief and trauma. It was evil what she put me through. But it has indeed lifted, and I know it's lifted because since Beauregard's death 6 months ago, it was like a boiling pot with a lid that had been struggling to stay on and, just constantly under pressure, finally blew it all off and everything just blew out and almost took something with it. I mean, I'd rather have my Beauregard alive, don't get me wrong. If I could have kept him alive and he'd be with me, he'd be here right now, But something very spiritual happened when he died. It was like everything just went whoosh and just cleared all obstacles. Not immediately, but I could see it all just clearing out, and I was like, what the fuck? What the actual fuck? It was intense. So my little Bobo, I hope he's safe in Valhalla waiting for me, and that evil that went with him is not attached to him. I'm sure it hasn't, because he was a good little soul, our little Beauregard. But it was just a very strange thing that almost went at the same time that he went. Very, very strange. So, anyway, there's probably an explanation for it, but I don't know what that would be. Anyway, here I wrote, 11 more years stolen from me. Well, it's 14 years tomorrow, but yeah, things are different now. Even my psych looked at me last debrief 2 weeks ago and said, I can see a change in your energy, and like there's a forward movement, and you're moving forwards in some important way. I said, yes, I can feel it too, doctor. I'm like, anyway, apart from any shifts in my energy, I've put in the work for decades now, including therapy, and I'm ready for my beautiful life to begin, right? There's been enough suffering. It's my turn now to have true love and joy and shalom and, my measure of success, whatever that might be, better health. It is my turn now. I'm claiming it. I claimed it years ago, actually, but fate would have it, I was stymied by the COVID epoch. But yes, I think we will all be moving forward as a collective to fight for our human rights and our health and our safety and our little communities and our true loves, our true lover, men and women, and our true friends and our truly loving family. And we will have zero tolerance for anyone that offers us anything less than basic human decency and kindness and respect. We will, because it's been enough horror, in my case since birth, that some of you only just went through your first major global crisis. Anyway, we will fight on every day in every way, being awesome and happy and triumphant, my beautiful ones. Holy hell, I wrote, but I am better these days. This was in 2021, so I was already becoming aware that I had kicked away some of the darkest of the demons, right? They could not hold me down forever, but almost 56 years was quite enough. Now almost 59 years. My goodness. My shaman friend, that was my friend Michelle Citrine, told me last year that I would find my niche. He also told me that me and my truly loving partner would find a way to be together, which was weird as I didn't have anyone. I mean, I was still hopeful that something might work out with one idiot, but that was ridiculous given how abusive he was anyway. He was not good for me. So, but my shaman friend said I would find my niche and my truly loving partner and I would find a way to be together. And I remember thinking, how is that even possible since I don't really have anyone in my life? Certainly no one dating me and being loyal and faithful to me. So anyway, he did prophesy that, but I still don't have a boyfriend or a romantic, interest. So, but it got my hopes up that it could happen one day, right? Yes, my spirit people are very good at getting my hopes up to keep me tethered to this planet, because my desire, my innate desire when things are bad is to want to leave this planet, because I've went through too much trauma as a child and as an adult woman, and my knee-jerk reaction is to get off the bus, Gus, but someone, capital S, keeps me here with promises that I will have a beautiful life with a beautiful man who adores, values, cherishes, if necessary, protects me, and is kind and loving and romantic and passionate and, chooses me from his own body, mind, soul, spirit, and builds a life with me, right? Well, it's a nice manifestation, and it could happen, but I don't live in fairy tale land all the time. Sometimes I get real and go, what the actual fuck? But anyway, I had to fall in love with myself over and over again after every destruction wrought by, former lovers in the past and by life circumstances. I had to be my own lover man, lover woman, lover warrior goddess, and fight my way through. And I'm actually very proud of what I've miraculously managed to do, mostly by myself, right? So I say here, I still have no idea what that might be, but on good days, I can sense it coming. And I hope I haven't been played for a fool or teased by the gods in recent months. I hope it's not another mirage and a false delusion and, someone's idea of a sick fantasy or trick being played on me. Because I'm really hoping that at long last I'm drawing in good, kind, noble, loving people, and ultimately the one who will be my Bichette, my destined partner, my one and only, right? But I'm seeing that I have so much support and love from people in recent months. So it's showing me that people's hearts are indeed opening and blossoming, and they're looking at me differently than ever before, because they've seen how I fought through this entire epoch, that I was one of the few voices that dared to say no, and they've seen that I was right to do so, So they've seen that I'm not so crazy or stupid as they like to believe I was in the past, right? Many seriously underestimated my intelligence, my wisdom, and my courage, and also my love. But anyway, here we are as a global society, as a collective, still picking ourselves up from the dust. And we will rise again, my beautiful ones. We will find our individual niches, and we will find our tribe, our communities, and they will find us too. And we will find those of us who are still single through no fault of our own. God knows we lived in hope and prayers and put trust in humanity many, many times. We will find our own true lover people that are devoted to us in the appointed time, guided and protected by the gods, because I cannot sustain any more serious mistakes choosing a partner that is cruel or sadistic ever again. I can't. I'm done. I was done the last three relationships that I had back in the day. I was done back then, but I still opened my heart up and gave people opportunities to absolutely eviscerate me. So it's why I'm a bit tetchy, people, for good reasons. But time will tell how that pans out in the end, my darlings. I have great faith in the gods, if not always in myself. Here I write, I pray for a beautiful, peaceful, safe, honourable, healthy, and loving existence. I manifest it daily from the crushed dead weight and skeletal remains of the old one, like Kali screaming into the void, holding the heads of my enemies. I recreate from destruction and desecration a wholly, different worldview, manifesting like a bitch, like a berserker, and on mornings like this one, I can believe it's here, even if in 3D reality it has not quite settled into place yet. My trickster gods like to slip and slide that metaphorical mirage like jelly on a plate. I have had to learn not to grab for it and gobble down its sweet mystery, but allow it to solidify and lock into place. Well, that hasn't happened yet, but it's a comin', Mama T. It's a comin'. It's there for me, I know it, but my broken body and sleep-deprived mind, out of sync with the rest of humanity, has to wait. Then, like grandmother spider, cast my silken, hopeful, flowing web on the winds of fate and land exactly where I am supposed to be in any fragmentary, illusory moment, home inside my heart and mind. 6th of March 2020, 9:53 a.m. I look back on the memories I have just reposted. All I can say is, wow, such exponential healing. Lynn told me yesterday, every time you get seriously ill, Tanya, like this last weekend, I notice you come back even stronger in your spirit. I agreed. I sense it too. Even though the antibiotics are wreaking havoc, with my bowels. I just had pizza for breakfast and it's repeating on me, yuck. Anyway, nasty on both counts. I still feel weak and clammy, no fever, but sort of just sticky and overheated, like a creme brulee that hasn't been torched yet. I feel a great and powerful calm and stoicism and another uprising in my spirit. Azrael was not so imaginary. He didn't take me to the next dimension again, but he gifted me extra strength to heal my body again. Well, my version of healing, which even at my best is always subpar, like running on a low battery at 70%. But then I supercharge myself on the weekend by frenetic dancing, then fall into collapse. But I get up again. It's been hellishly humid all day, but now a big storm is rolling in. I have gone to bed to lie here and thoroughly enjoy the sounds of Thor and Odin throwing the heads of unworthy warriors around. Then I shall delight in the rain. 1:11 p.m. and all is well. Little storm of sardonicism has passed. I need to change my mind about my current iteration of life and dying. I think I need some cannabis, as that will gift me with an attitude adjustment. Winky face. But in the meantime, and I very rarely indulge in cannabis, people, so when I say I think I need some cannabis, I need it because I'm not travelling all that well. But in the meantime, my ancestors are gifting me weird flashbacks and literary extrapolations. I love my mind healing. Plus ça change, plus c'est la même chose. Translation: the more things change, the more they stay the same. Ain't that the truth? Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all? Fair in the modern interpretation of equal and just. Mirror as in reflections and refractions of an image seen with the eye of the beholder with bias or cognitive dissonant blindness. You only see what you want to see, but disregard the rest. Regardez-vous, look at yourself. There is no mask or lie in the mirror. Stultifying, but shine bright like a diamond, like quicksilver, slip away, kill with a look the craven Dibukim. Azrael, why me? No one better qualified, my lovely. The gods built you this way. Trust in us, everything has its higher reason. After the season comes the vindication and the glorious harvest. Tanya, little one, we know your body is fighting death and you are tired. Be merciful to the clueless and unmerciless. Do not become the monsters that spent decades trying to annihilate you. If you must go out in a blaze of glory, little brave, defiant one, let your last epitaph be dignity, grace, and mercy, like a dandelion flower that has had her seeds blown to the 4 directions. Let the winds blow you home, to grow in fertile territory again, nurtured and protected by wise ones that know your beauty and strength that seems so delicate and precarious will blossom out again. And thank you to my beautiful wise ones. You know who you are. The cycle of every single life on this planet, bloom and grow, cut and pruned and decimated by the greedy and corrupt. But up you go on your feet again, flowering. Love you. 6th of March 2019. "1:03 a.m, unable to sleep. I went to bed at midnight, exhausted, but lay here, irritated by the sound of the fan, and now am irked by the humidity in my bedroom. Read and shared my memories my father. Interesting for me to have seen how far I have come. Well, 2 more days of horror to go. My mother's death and my grandmother's suicide. Then I shall shake off the creepy, vile ancestors again. They are pulling at me, clawing at me. My leg hurts. I feel weak, exhausted, but hypervigilant and/or overstimulated. Meh. Tomorrow is another day. I am worried about money, so what else is new? So I will try to take life easy tomorrow, or rather, later today. I hope I sleep soon. Wish me luck." And what usually happens is when I write up during the night, I'm usually on Facebook, which is where these are all gleaned from, that I can't sleep. Usually, almost miraculously, within 10 minutes or half an hour, I actually fall asleep. It's like my spirit needs permission to talk about the insomnia before it settles down to sleep. It's really weird. It's like a small child acting out, throwing a tantrum, right? And but that's how it seems to work with my brain. It's like, until I talk about it, it's not going to happen. It's really, really quite peculiar. 6th of March 2018. Today was my father's birthday. The week of awfulness continues. He would have been 90 today. I still find it hard to imagine how both my parents managed to reach such an advanced age. I really do. Both were maniacs. My dad drove like one and rolled several cars during my childhood. Even gave me concussion while driving me to the hospital when I cut my knee open when I was 7. No seatbelts in those days, so I hit my head on the dashboard. I was concussed another time when a kid smashed a heavy wooden gate into my forehead at Sunday school, 6 years old. No wonder I never made it in life. So much trauma, sexual abuse, violence, and strange accidents that were bloody deliberate, like the attempted drowning my father did on me. came very close to drowning me, and I don't think that was quite an accident actually. I think he was almost hoping I would drown. I know it sounds horrific, but he was just that negligent and crazy and incompetent and just weird. My life is a walking nightmare, but the dream continues. I have survived every bastard that ever tried to kill me, rape me, molest me, but only just. In spite of all of them and all the damage done, I will thrive. And also I will deify. I defy. I designed this logo for my t-shirt, by the way. Deify. Be your own god and goddess. Stand in your own light and your own authority. Say no to the oppressors. And thrive, babies. Thrive as much as you can every day in every way, with harm to none and competition with none. So it is done. But yes, thrive in your own defiance, people of Earth. It's the only way you're going to survive the continued onslaughts that you know who have planned for us. I repeat again, only just surviving them in spite of all of them and all the damage done. I will thrive even as I keep faking it, because there's days when I'm not thriving. There's days when I'm deep diving in the abyss, and you've probably seen those come up in my writings and seen me struggle, looking quite unwell at times. Those dark days are very, very hard to come back from, but I do it because life can and will and still is beautiful with the right people in your life who honour you and nurture you and adore you. Life can and will be beautiful, but you have to slough off the rest, painful though it is. Those who don't treat you with any measure of basic courtesy and respect have to leave your life. It's that simple and it's that difficult. Ah well, I made myself a good dinner. I have been knitting and sitting on my powder keg of CPTSD triggers. Sitting, plutzing and waiting for Godot. And if you've read the Samuel Beckett play, Waiting for Godot, you will know that Godot never actually turns up. The whole play is satire and good old Godot. But perhaps instead of me waiting for Godot, Godot's out there waiting for me. Now there's a twist. You have to laugh. I pray to the gods he comes soon, but then of course no one could handle me. I was never safe with any of them, and the only one that can save me is my own self. Thriving, jiving, and believing in my own abilities will reap their own rewards one fine day. Amen, sister. Amen. 6th of March 2017. His birthday. He had died 3 days earlier. Here's a photo of my progenitor and my own tiny little, determined little, how am I going to do this, self. I had to wear a bonnet after my hair all fell out when I was about 3 months old. I was bald until I was like 8 or 9 months old. So they slapped a bonnet to disguise the baldness. But then my hair came out like peroxide, natural platinum blonde. Now it's peroxided, darlings. But yeah, so I went from having Tishan, beautiful, bright red hair to being a little blondie. But in the interim, but that's probably because I was so ill, vomiting up all my food all the time, that my hair fell out. They forget to mention that part, didn't they? I was a very sick, failure to thrive baby. You can actually kind of see it in my face. It sort of, there's a look in my eyes of just hanging in the shadowlands even then. I would be sarcastic and say little baby Tanya was lying there thinking, what the actual fuck? But I didn't have that language quite calibrated in my soul yet. But if I put captions on all my baby photos, they would probably, the majority of them would say, what the actual fuck, and why am I even here with these people, and how do I get out of this safely? And it was just awful. But my father, I have to say, was a loving father when I was an infant. Probably the last time he was a loving father, up until I turned 2 or 3 and got in the habit of walking in front of the television screen, and he would turn very, very savage over that. So the gloss of being a new father faded very, very fucking quickly once I could walk and start talking and maneuver myself around, right? Today is my father's birthday. Vale, you absconded, beautiful but depraved motherfucker. Literally. I loved you and I let you go. Some people are too dangerous to keep in your life or energy, but some never quite leave you. May he find rest. I'm sighing because this is incredibly generous of me, since he doesn't deserve that really. But here I write. May he find rest and peace in the loving arms of the Ein Sof Or, the eternal infinite light. May his spirit find healing, and may the exquisite beauty that was innate within that lustful, hateful corpus find expression in a positive way. He died in peace, but alone, as do we all. But some shine their lights and leave a legacy of great and wholesome love and blessings upon the earth, and some leave behind a shadow and a grease mark that is not easily erased. My father left behind 3 women who all deserved a much better life and a much better exemplar of manhood. But we will rise and we will shine and we will love and be loved, and we shall be a blessing to all the earth and encourage and ennoble all the other compatriots of pain who were unmothered and unfathered, but grew to be our own mothers and our own fathers, and grew wise and strong, and so beautifully, brokenly, searingly cracked that Kintsugi spiritual gold poured through our eyes from soul to soul, the soles of our feet, and made us vibrant and vibrate on another resonance of light and of a life pure, eternal and powerful, cloaked in bodies in varying states of mortal moribund decay, but so beautiful. Short, fat little wild creatures of smite and light, but so adorable. Whirling dervish, angry vagina monologus delights, but so fucking beautiful. Caretakers and undertakers, birthers and murderers, fakers and frotted and flattered flops. But so beautiful. Lovers and fighters and dreamers and sleeping prophets. 3 wise men and 1,000 wise-ass women, and so beautiful. Life, l'chaim, sweat and glow, birth, bestow, give and take, and blessed are the meek, the sleek and sublime. Nothing lost and everything gained on the wheel of fortune, in the hurdy-gurdy trip on the light fandango of life. Did I mention beautiful? Love you all. Never give up. Never let the bastards grind you down. We got you. Trigger warning. Grief purging. Edification of a monster. Love that never dies. Life lessons for the lowly. My father had some strange ideas about health. He often practiced intermittent fasting, which, by the way, is life-saving if you've had, the transubstantiation of the sacred needlecraft. 3-day fasts, at the very bare minimum, 48-hour fasts are recommended. So intermittent fasting was practiced by my father for a long, long time before this epoch came along. My father was a medical intuitive, by the way. I often wonder what he would have had to say when this got rolled out in 2020. He would have been quite astonished, I would think. Starving himself for 3 days, then binging for 3 days. That kept his weight in the normal range. He loved coffee with a dash of salt in it. Actually, from what I remember, he drank a lot of coffee. And I also vaguely remember him sometimes putting a dollop of butter in his coffee too. Yes, I'm pretty sure he did that too. He was a bit odd, my father, but oh well. He was always reading spiritual and books on psychism and naturopathy. I can't even speak my own language anymore, that's disturbing. Naturopathy. He was always interested in alternative healing because he was a medical intuitive, like a natural intuitive. So I repeat again, actually from what I remember, he drank a lot of coffee. He had smoked from age 7 to 21, then gave up instantaneously and cold turkey and became a loud, vociferous, anti-smoking campaigner. He abhorred smoking. He made me drink the boiled water left over from boiling vegetables with a dash of salt and pepper and sometimes a knob of butter in it. Gross. This was during my early childhood, people. He was often in violent rages, loved to drink whiskey, beer, loved eating fresh fish we caught at the beach, loved pippies, oysters, scallops, ooh, Loved all kinds of shellfish, actually. You know, crayfish, calamari, you name it. But we lived by the sea, so he would often catch things or collect things. His dietary predilections must have been well for him, as the old bastard lived until almost 89, 3 days short of his 89th birthday. He drove cars like a dangerous, maniacal race car driver on acid. Rolled at least 3 cars during my childhood. Never once was he injured, and miraculously, he never killed others in a car accident. He walked away nonchalantly. He did give me... did I write about that later? No. So one of the things on the subject of driving in cars was at one stage when I was about 7 or 8, he got the idea to be a taxi driver, and he was making good money in it, and he decided he wanted to buy his own taxi cab, like have his own, be an owner driver, have his own little business, his own car. And my mother considered putting the money, investing the money into it, into buying him his own cab, right? But the owner of the company that Dad was driving for took her aside and said, "Don't do it, love. He's a bloody maniac. You will go broke." And talked her out of investing in a cab for him, which was completely the right thing to do, because he'd already rolled a few of the taxis, and they eventually got him out of that job too. So yes, he was a complete maniac behind the wheel, and even on the rare occasions I got in his car as an adult woman, I would just fucking cringe and honestly expect to die. You literally got in his vehicle, taking your life in your own hands to even trust him behind the wheel. That's how bad he was. Aggressive, erratic, dangerous. And he would turn to you and go, "But I'm an excellent driver." Well, he must have been on some level, at some level of excellence that he survived it all, but by the gods, it was horrific. He did give me concussion, racing me to the hospital with a gaping wound in my knee as he hit the brakes at the lights. No seatbelts in 1972, and I banged my head on the dashboard. The idiot then screamed at me for being careless. This is what level of monster he was, right? He was in a state of fury that my cut knee needed medical treatment, and was only assuaged when the ED doctor told him that my bone had narrowly missed being chipped. I just sat, dazed and confused, with a headache from his dangerous driving and the screaming and the trauma of being driven there. It is funny now. Well, actually, no, not really. It's still not really funny. But by the gods, it was horrendous back then. He had little empathy for fragile little children. And I still sport that scar on my knee to this day. Yeah, let me get this camera right. Here. Can you see it? Along there. Narrowly missed chipping the bone. So the doctor explained, because it was so close to the bone, it would have been extremely painful. He didn't give a fuck. He really didn't. He only took me to the hospital after I was screaming and bleeding and in deep distress, after eventually my mother came out and saw what was going on, said, "You better take her to the hospital." She wasn't all that particularly bothered either, by the way. They were both monsters. They really were monsters. But anyway, I continue. He ate with gusto, shoveling food down his throat with great furious passion. I get my gulping gourmandry from him, because I kind of eat similarly, to be honest. That's why I call myself a berserker. We're like wild Viking berserker warrior animal primal people unleashed on a battlefield somewhere. In fact, we probably would have been berserkers if we lived in Viking times. And it wouldn't surprise me if I'd been one in a previous lifetime, to be honest. You had to be a little bit berserker to survive my parents, I can tell you that much. He once bragged to me that he ate a 3-course meal in 7 minutes at a railway cafeteria in time to board a train. Burp. He could belch out the alphabet, an admirable skill to a 5-year-old. Everything he did was fiercely innovated. I get that from him too. He was larger than life and very intimidating when in one of his furies. I probably get that from him too. He was emphatic and dogmatic and brooked no fools. Fisticuffs were his punctuation marks with other men in bars or at work. He never once hit my mother, and with the way she rode his emotional dysphoria like a Mustang, I was often very amazed that he did not. Very amazing that, because he was an aggressive, violent man to everyone else. He was verbally aggressive and emotionally aggressive, but he probably knew the day he laid a hand on my mother would have been his last day on earth. Knew not to go there. But there were times when it was absolutely freaking terrifying. One time when I was about 5, they were having the most almighty row, and my father stood all rigid with his fists clenched but down at his side, because he knew if he hit her, it'd be the end. And I kind of, 5 years old, knew that too. And I literally saw blood vessels burst in his eyes. That's how hard he tried to restrain himself, and did in fact restrain himself. And I actually broke up that fight by going up to him and wrapping my little arms around his waist. And I looked over at my mother. My mother really was sadistic. There's no other word to describe it. She knew he was mentally unstable, but she would ride him like a bitch, literally, probably sexually in the bed later on too. But she was fucking evil what she used to do to him. He wasn't a particularly, let's face it, they were as bad as each other. But I put my arms around her and I said to my father, 5 years old, without wisdom of knowing what level of low-life entity really was, I said, "Don't worry, Daddy, I still love you." And he broke into hysterical tears and sobbed and sobbed and sobbed, and that was the end of that fight. So here I write, I buffered and broke up several very explosive, dangerous fights by the time I was 5. Intuitively, I already knew with every fibre of my being that I was being raised by maniacal, dangerously unstable children cloaked in adult bodies. I truly believed they had already tried to kill me and possibly might one day. So it was with some amazement when I survived them, over and over again. Each birthday, another milestone to my survival, and another example of my indomitable will to enjoy my life and find love, meaning and purpose. And at other, more darker, more zombified days, merely to survive one more hour, one more minute, and keep breathing, shuffling, sleeping, until years passed me by. My children grew up and grew out of me, and I myself had held on so long that I too outgrew the horror and travesty of my childhood, 20s, 30s, and even 40s. My 50s, awesome so far. Perhaps I will outlive my own expectations and survive or thrive into my 60s or 70s. Bear in mind, both my parents lived into their 80s, so I can't imagine living that long. It's astonishing that I've lived this long, but stranger things have been known to happen. My psychiatrist thinks if we can calm down my bladder signalling and I get lots of rest at night and get back to some kind of normal, that I may have many years ahead of me still. But to be honest, I don't want to live a longer life if it means another 29 years of struggle on my own, surrounded by enemies. I can't sustain it anymore. It's not tenable. So I'm literally on a seesaw or in a balance, weighing up my options for my future. And if I'm going to be left to be isolated and alone without love and without reasonable health and without enough money to just stop this constant and interminable struggle, I don't want to be here anymore, people. But I've said that all my life, and here I am. It's not a question of what I want and my choices. It's merely in the lap of the gods who decide how long they want me here on this earth. And verily, verily, very often it feels like being tortured, especially when Bobo died. That was the most immense emotional torture what I was put through when I was deeply vulnerable and in deep grief. I actually wanted to follow him then, and but here we are 6 months later, and well, no, it's 7 months after his death now, and it's astonishing. It's bloody astonishing how beautiful life has been in recent months. So thank you to my beautiful bands, Alter Egos and Ramjet, for being so sweet to me in recent months in the Brooklyn Standard. Thank you to Brooklyn Standard. Thank you to my true friends, and I'm grateful. I'm grateful for the love. Thank you especially to my psychiatrist, who's fighting hard with his own money, by the way, to get me proper urology treatment. And thank you to, my close friends, Lynn and Jared and Sally in New Zealand, who cheer me on and encourage me, motivate me, bless me. Thank you to the gods, the Holy One, and all manifestations. And thank you too to the Tanya, her own indomitable spirit, that even though I say sometimes, more often than not, I want things to end, I keep fighting through one more day too. The prospect of that is creepy, I say, living to my 70s. But hey, I never truly expected to live this long. Life is an unfurling flower in the tree of life. It truly is. It's a miracle. It's astonishing. It's incredibly beautiful and amazing. Here I write, make it beautiful, trust it, nurture it, and never let it beat you. But I digress. My father was a profoundly spiritual man. He, like my mother, read abundantly, mostly occultist books. As I said, they were both incredibly bright people, but undereducated because of World War II. He loved T. Lobsang Rampa, which he encouraged me to read. I loved the idea of guardians or gardeners of the earth, aliens or gods, protecting and seeding this planet with us humans, guiding us with world religions, and evolving us into higher consciousness of peace and universal love. David Davidson, who was my ex-lover, the homeopath psychopath, was enamoured with my father, desperately seeking his own daddy in older male mentors, which when I think about it is a bit astonishing given that his own father was a psychiatrist by profession. He can't have spent a lot of time with David Davidson, raising him, teaching him how to be a real man, because he was always seeking older male mentors. He had the friendship for years with Emmanuel Meshes, who was older, much older, and not that much older than David, I suppose, but had a male mentor in him, and then he kind of latched on in a way to my father. It was odd, very odd. But then my father was very charming in many ways and had this kind of fragile sweetness of a trauma survivor too that could lure people in. And Davidson had no idea how savage and cruel and acopic he could really be. Anyway, I write, he was enamoured with my father because my dad had read Gurdjieff and Uspensky and studied magic and occult philosophy, desperately seeking mana and meaning and evolution of consciousness. Magic happens, babies. It is not only found in a book, it is inside each of us. If we are fortunate enough to access it by accident or design, by intent or by sheer miraculous luck. Humans truly do have superpowers, but most of us never discover what they are as we stumble through our lives in a somnolent dream or a stumbling nightmare of sheer basic survival. My dad also loved American westerns like Zane Grey. He had had a large collection of US silver dollars. He spoke the words chance, dance, and half the American way with the short A. He was a hard worker, which was an affectation in New Zealand, by the way, because we all say chance, dance, and half. It really was an affectation on his part. But anyway, he was a hard worker, mostly manual labour. He worked 3 jobs in one time. In the 70s, he once had 3 jobs in one day, telling each boss or supervisor to fuck off, walking into another job by lunchtime and yet another one by 3 p.m. Plenty of work in the 70s. here I write, work was plentiful. He was handsome, able-bodied, articulate, and could be charming until the first co-worker or supervisor told him what to do or sneezed the wrong way, laughing my ass off. My father never did find his niche in life. His favourite song was Wandering Star by Lee Marvin in Paint Your Wagon, a character he really identified with. He also adored Jack Nicholson and that other famous actor that played cowboys, the one with a deep voice that often sounded out of breath. Name escapes me. He played opposite Billy Crystal in City Slickers. He also loved John Wayne. Ah yes, Jack Palance. My dad also taught me to love and appreciate gay people. He identified with the other, with the marginalised, with the eccentric, and the flamboyant. My parents took me to the very first underground gay wedding when I was 5. I remember feeling overwhelmed with a room full of uncles, all very high camp, darlings, and mincing their hips and words in sinewy displays of masculinity and feminine largesse. It was fabulous. I was handed around the room from shoulder to shoulder and was positively fussed over and feted, until I was put to bed on a mattress on the floor, and in the darkness Trevor slipped into the room to sleep beside me. Trevor was my pedophile godfather, who was clearly at the party with my parents. I was not comfortable with this, and one of the gay men entered the room and told Trevor to get away from me. I have absolutely adored, respected, and admired gay people ever since. Protection of my little personal space was a rarity. It took a gay man to show me what real, loving respect for individuality was. Indeed, respect for my little child's body, right? That gay man, don't remember who he was, never saw him again, was a true father to me and a real man, protective of this little girl. My dad also did cartoon drawings of Pluto and Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck and impersonations of the same. He played the ukulele and sang Tiny Tim songs to me, always fucking tiptoeing through the tulips, which was a popular song in my epoch, around 5, 6, 7. He could be an ally, warning me that Slap Happy, my mother, was on the warpath. He actually nicknamed her that, Slap Happy. Says a lot, doesn't it? Other times I was saved from uncertain demise at his hands by my half-sister, hurling my 3-year-old body through the air into the safety of my bedroom. I flew and did not comprehend how I landed on my behind. It had felt like a dream until the sudden stop at my bottom. My father's favourite expression, it is not the fall that hurts, it is the sudden stop at the bottom. So I kept falling. It is not the bottom stop that hurts, it is the great, craggy, chasming abyss that scrambles beneath your feet. and the long, slow, painful climb from an ever bottomless pit of fucking epic devastation, striving for a foothold or a kind hand to pull you up or give you a leg up as the ground crumbles and implodes beneath your feet, and you dive again and again into the existential and often physical abyss that exemplifies your life. You lie down, prostrate, supine, and exhausted, and think at last you will have rest and peace, but the fates throw you into the fray again and again, and laughter bellicosely screams from the bowels of your belly and chest, because it is all too real, and after a while it all becomes hilariously funny. What doesn't kill you? Well, we all know how that goes. But I digress. My father had a great sense of humour, and his laughter was insane and somehow healing. He had a great sense of the absurd. He loved Phyllis Diller, Charlie Chaplin, the Three Stooges, Laurel, and the Fat One, Hardy. He was a bon vivant and a great raconteur. He once lost his oars on his dinghy and drifted out into the Cook Strait and had to be rescued. I often wondered if that was a deliberate attempt at suicide. The dinghy subsequently floated back on a beach after a southerly storm. I was endlessly teased about my father's failure to escape in that boat and it coming back to bite me or him. He both adored and abhorred my demanding, selfish, narcopath mother. He never truly gave up on her, even decades after their separation. He floated around, fascinated in her orbit through her 23-year relationship with Case, and was quite willingly manipulated by Buck Shearer in an obvious attempt to continue to float around my mother once again, like a torpid blue-bottle jellyfish stranded on a toxic beach of malevolent, greedy, selfish entities. He was addicted. I can thank him for my own love addiction, and I put in brackets S, plural, and inability to find a stable life partner and inability to thrive just yet. But I hope, oh God, I do hope to give the final middle finger of fate to all my parental entropy stimulators and prove to them and myself and my children how fucking amazingly awesome I truly am in spite of it all. Smiley face. To fly in the face of my own misery and to shine a light on the fear and torment and turn that shit to spiritual gold, beautiful, noble, gracious, and blessed. My parents and half-sister never knew who I was or whom I could have been. A mind is a terrible thing to waste. Quote Angela Stewart, by the way. But those callow curs wasted their lives and hearts and minds on abusing myself and others instead of lifting up and keeping each other precious, instead of using their talents to heal, not harm. Wastrels, all of them. My dad's other favourite saying was, "A rolling stone gathers no moss." His desire for freedom at any cost, which I totally resonate with, by the way. Freedom's my highest value too. But his desire for freedom at any cost led to his demise, dying alone and impoverished as a homeless man. Well, living in assisted accommodation the last 3 years. So fucking assisted they didn't bother to take him to hospital in a timely manner, so he died of kidney sepsis. That's your assistance, old age care home in Shepparton, Victoria. You fucking murderers, you evil cunts. How many other elderly, frail people did you assist out of their lives in that way back in 2017? You fucking monsters. My father might have been my monster, and I write quite honestly about my struggles with him, but he was still a human being deserving of proper medical treatment. I mean, they give the best possible medical treatment to serial killers in prison, don't they? It's outrageous. Absolutely outrageous. Don't forget the COVID epoch with the midazolam and the barbiturates siphoning off our frail and elderly, denied visits from their own families so you couldn't even check on their well-being. Evil is what it was. I will never, ever shrink from the truth. Ever. He lived life very fortunately, often won raffles in pubs, even buying the last ticket. He gathered no moss, no real attachments except to my mother. He taught his own daughter and granddaughters to hate him as he became increasingly sexually inappropriate in older age. I could not trust him alone with my daughters, which filled me with horror. Going to work, which at that time I was working at the Queensland Police Service Academy, oh, the irony, since they never protected me or my children when we were being threatened for 18 months at Logan. It's very ironic that I ended up in that job. But anyway, going to work meant being in a crazed, schizophrenic, torn agony, as I knew my kids would be at his mercy when they came home from school. He was so utterly selfish, he cooked his own meals and ate, but refused to cook for my daughters. Meanwhile, living in my house for 2 months, right? Begged me to take him in, and then abused my daughters by not even cooking them a fucking meal. I had to take them to McDonald's or cook for them myself when I got home. I mean, it was really disgusting how we were treated. Absolutely. Then he started violent attacks on my neighbour Brendan, who told me he had had trouble restraining himself from punching my elderly 70-year-old father in his face. I explained to my neighbour it is not him, but my father who is unstable and picks fights. I told my father to leave that very night. I also told him that I could never forgive his failure to protect me from Trevor Singh as a child, or his failure, even gloating about, to protect my half-sister Angela before I was born. Horrible man. A man I had blindly loved like a living God throughout most of my childhood. I can still smell his scent of masculinity lathered in Old Spice, his comforting body that shielded my infant one. How did this big, all-consuming, fiery love go so wrong? I am a product of his loins and his hard work, his spiritual guidance and his violent furies, his refusal to believe in me, his only daughter, and his failure to protect and respect me. His love that was hardly pure, his folly, his hatred and envy of me and his own granddaughters, his desperate failure to love without consuming and subsuming the best and most beautiful women in his life. His freedom, which is his greatest gift and his most scathing curse, for it is a freedom that drives the Tanya and Crystal and Jasmine to live without real love in the world of men, without compromise and without fear. A backhanded slap on the arse of eternity. A terrible, mortifying aspect of our psyches that makes the average person tremble with anticipation and precipitation. Ha 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 ha. Who am I? Who am I yet becoming? More myself, unique, healed, and whole. My spirit whistles the wind. The old salts rub into my wounds. Tears of joy leach out and become rivers of edification. Gods and monsters, yin and yang, 0 point energy. A star explodes and a black hole becomes a white hole, and an expectorating asshole takes my half-sister's betrayals with him. Nuts. But that is the way of the spirit, capital S spirit, meaning God. I have many brothers and sisters now, keepers of light and truth and beauty, and so much love. Earlier I wrote, blurred vision today, but my mind is crystal clear and chiming like a cathedral bell. Going to have a shower to cleanse the dross, unchained melodies and unchained daughters. Sing it, babies. Ah, much better. In the shower, I saw a long-legged, tendrilled, pink sea anemone osmosing in its own bioluminescence, gently swaying in the crystal clear waters, dancing to the currents. Suddenly it closed upon itself from an impending intruder, sucking itself inside, safe and sound. then gently unfurling again into the life stream or life's dream, and psychedelic dreamer smiled and said, "Dance, little one." I cupped my hands under the force of water flowing from the shower head. It formed a pool in my hands that was shaped like a love heart. Again, I smiled. Then I was reminded of a memory of Gisela and David, my parents, my lovers, cooking in a pressure cooker, and how it exploded some overcooked stew high up on our kitchen ceiling. For a moment in time, there was silence and awe. Meat and gravy and assorted slime dripping on our heads. My tiny child's mind started laughing. I hated their cooking anyway. Then the inevitable screaming started. "You fucking idiot! Now look what a mess you made!" Life is messy. Food slops dripping on my head like raindrops, and a 7-year-old laughing. "Mum, Dad, it wasn't you. It was the machine that did it. Get rid of the machine." Silence again. Brittle, embarrassed silence in the face of the tiny Tanya's singular logic. Scrambling for a mop and sponges. Dad up on a stepladder scrubbing the ceiling. "Dad, you missed a spot." Whatever. Eternal sunshine of a spotless mind wasted in pressure-cooked stew and irradiated by microwaves and aluminium foil and aspartame poisoning. But so funny. What did we eat for dinner that night? I don't remember. Here's some photos of, you can just see part of my friend Jared, side on, with little Beauregard, my sweet little boy, and my beautiful friend Jared, my brother, comforting me on that day, bringing me much comfort, my beautiful ones. And here we have Jared's little dog, Harvey, who was taking great interest in the Chinese silky chickens, but to his credit, he didn't chase them, unlike Beauregard. But yes, he was a sweet little doggy. They were sweet little chickens too. I mean, technically I could get chickens again since Beauregard's gone and there's no dogs to constantly stress them out and chase them. But there's something on this land, some poison, something that causes them all to get very strange illnesses. So I don't think I'll do that. It's too risky. It's been some years now since I kept chickens, but I can't go through the constant grief when they die or get the most awful, strange illnesses. 6th of March 2016. Excuse me. Today is my father, David Ian Phillips's birthday. He is now 88. He was still alive that year, 2016, just under a year before his death. He was a loving father to me as an infant. I was a very sickly baby with reflux and failure to thrive syndrome. Not much has changed there, except I've lost the art of projectile vomiting, which would have been a handy weapon against certain enemies. I used it regularly on my sister's fair old cardigan. The only way they could settle me down to sleep was to lie me down, all bundled up in the small of my father's back. He radiated so much heat from his body that I felt warm, safe, and loved there. He was the first person to hold me at birth after medical staff. I was born by emergency caesarean after Gisela had laboured on and off for 7 days and had suffered from toxemia. I was also a month early, by the way. I was born just 2.5 hours before my sister Angela's 15th birthday. The specialist, Mr. Smith, would not wait even those few more hours so we could share the same birthday. I was also born on my grandfather Erich Karl Fritz Meyer's yahrzeit, anniversary of his death. Oh, and Mr. Smith, who in those days was called Dr. Smith, Mr. Smith delivered my eldest daughter Crystal too, as fate would have it. Very strange coincidence or synchronicity. The same man that birthed me birthed my elder daughter. Delivered my elder daughter is what I mean. Delivered me and delivered my elder daughter. Oh, dear goddess, my computer's doing weird things now. My parents screamed and fought so much during their pregnancy with me, well, my mother's pregnancy with me, that I was very weak and ill indeed, 1 month premature. Dad said I was covered in a fine blonde down, but had violent, well, I do have violent eyes when I lose my temper, had violet eyes, Titian red hair, and my mother's perfect shaped legs and feet. He used to kiss my tiny feet. He had never seen anything so beautiful except for my mother. This nascent love story did not last. His rages continued. He would scream at me, aged 2 or 3, for walking or standing in front of the idiot box. One time my sister ran into the living room, scooped me up by my tiny armpits and literally hurled me into my bedroom next door. I have never forgotten the sudden uplift and flying sensation then, as Dad used to love to quip. It's not the fall that hurts, it's a sudden stop at the bottom, landing hard on my backside with a thump. I was too shocked to cry. I was 3. The door slammed shut behind me. There was some brief yelling. Then I sat on my bruised bottom, rubbing it, trying to figure out how I had learned to fly and what had happened. This was the only time my sister actively protected me. She was 18. I loved my dad with a blind devotion until I was 16. When I was here on holiday in Ipswich, Brisbane, from Wellington, New Zealand, Dad was living in a caravan park at the Queen's Park Nature Reserve. He had his cockatoo, Cheeky, and we went swimming at the local pool where he always bought me a cherry ripe and made lewd comments about the 1981 string bikini fashion and needing a pair of scissors. Well, I didn't have bikinis because I was always self-conscious about my body due to the child sexual abuse, but he was alluding to all the other young girls and women around us, right? Up until then, He had never been skeezy or sleazy. He had always been a gentleman and spoken respectfully, almost a feminist, about women. But he took me to the local pub one night, 45 degrees, dry, hot, summer heat. So we went to the pub often for the air conditioning. I was 16. I was wearing a white singlet top with a panel in front of embroidered flowers. I have always loved embroidered clothing and textiles, probably my European ancestry. I wore no bra, too hot, and I only had a B cup in those days. Some Aboriginal man offered to fuck me. I was horrified and distressed. Remember, I was no wilting violet. I had been in pubs since my birthday in April with my tough, much older Māori women mentors, and no man had ever spoken to me with such contemptuous violence back in New Zealand. And we're talking in some very, very rough and dangerous pubs in Wellington, by the way. Never had I been treated like that before. Nothing against Aboriginal people, but I just mentioned his race because he happened to be Aboriginal. But it's not about race, it was just about the man was filthy, how he spoke to me, right? I went to my dad. That man over there threatened to fuck me, expecting Dad to tell the man to fuck off, or at least to tell him to mind his P's and Q's. My dad glanced over at the sneering younger male in his late 20s. His eyes slid over to my chest. What do you expect, dressed like that, in a pub? I was aghast and horrified. My dad did not defend or protect me. I was on my own in the world of men. Not even my then 54-year-old father was man enough to stand by me. I walked off. 4 years later, when he had returned to New Zealand and was visiting me, married and heavily pregnant with his first grandchild, standing at the kitchen sink washing dishes, he stepped up behind me and put his arms around me in what I expected would be a fatherly hug, but cupped my full, expectant breasts in his hands instead. I was shocked and mortified. My father had never molested me before. I had been sexually abused by my godfather and later by my stepfather, but I had never had reason to fear my dad before. I froze, sickened. He stepped away, sensing my horror. After that, I never felt comfortable with him in my home. I finally cut ties to him in 2000, a watershed year which saw me also escape my mother and her last conman boyfriend, later husband, my father and a former boyfriend and his maniac sister, and another former lover. I went into hiding in Mount Gravatt East from Logan Lee. Eventually they found me. Gila's son had gone to school in Mansfield with some young men who visited my neighbour but befriended my daughters. Small fucking world. By a giant stroke of serendipity, my housing commission house became available in that 2-week time frame that I broke down and freaked out about where we were going to have to escape to next. We moved here to Holland Park, only 5 minutes away, but safe. My first and only safe haven, sacred space, my place of healing, for which I am eternally grateful. So now, happy birthday, Dad, you old fuck. Still itinerant, living off the kindness of strangers, house sitting, popping warfarin for your DVT and whatever other octogenarian ailments you have to add to your bursitis and bellicose personality. I never want to see you again. You and my mother ensured you gave me a lifetime of hell. Even now. So yeah, thanks for giving me life and seeding me on this planet. I am a great twisted kauri tree, thick, strong, thick, strong with gnarls and scars that mostly only I can see. Wherever you cut me down, I grew up and around that wound. I grew tall, not in height, but in valour. How tall is Tanya? So tall. I would stand on my tippy toes at the foot of my parents' bed, reaching up to the sky with my little fingers outstretched to make me appear even taller. Little Tanya, destined to never get more height than my hobbit height, 5'3", and shrinking, by the way, with age. How strong am I? Too bloody strong for too bloody long, but I am slowly devolving into my own decrepitude and older age. End stage trauma patient. Thanks for the memories, Dad. Thanks for the nurturance as a tiny baby when I was cute and beautiful to you. Without that bare minimum, I would not have survived. Angela once asked me, a year or so before she declared me dead at the end of the will dispute in September 2012, do you regret not dying as a small baby or child? Do you wish you had not been born? It was a hard question. At the time I answered, yes, but I'm here, so I might as well make the best of it. We are all here for a reason. But if given the choice, I would probably not do this life again, except for having my kids, I suppose. She looked at me with sad eyes. She wanted me to thank her for keeping me alive. Nup. That is the role of any parent or much older sibling. That is just what you do. Protect and serve the very young and innocent. She failed in her duty as a fellow survivor of Trevor Singh. So yeah, here I am, almost 51, now almost 59. Alive, happily free of their abuse and bastardry. They got one thing right. I turned out amazing. Here I post a photo as it reminded me of that book, Where's Wally, where you had to find the little Wally character. And I wrote, where's Mushu? Can you see him? He was a sweetheart, that little boy cat. Was that him? Don't tell me that's not him and I'm wrong. And I think that was him. My eyes are getting blurry and blurry. I need to get new glasses, people. It's not cool. It's probably the effects of the medication I'm on too. But yeah, I really do need to get my eyes checked a lot. 6th of March 2015, 5:19 p.m. Oh my God, Byron Bay. The closest thing to paradise without dying. I love that place so much. I really do. I've had a wonderful swim in crystalline waters, great surf, so got some body surfing in. I had fish and chips on the beach and communed with a very polite, gentlemanly seagull with one blinded eye, but who gently took the chips. I eventually preferred him, as he was uncharacteristically patient and polite for a seagull. Right out of my hand. Lovely bird. Now contemplating what to do next. Oh, and they have new fancy Japanese toilets that talk to you and are so much cleaner than the old surf club toilets, which always filled me with horror. Now Byron is even more special to me. I hope they're still there. I haven't been back in 5 years now. I love Byron, but for some reason I haven't got there again. 7:15 p.m. I had a gorgeous gelato, sticky date pudding and chocolate with brandy. I stopped to listen to a lovely woman singer. An Aboriginal man named Wes asked if I thought she was any good. I said, Wes, we have fresh air, the sea, beautiful twilight, beautiful music, in Byron Bay. What more could anyone ask for? It would just be greedy. He smiled, kissed my hand, and continued on his merry way. Very sweet. Now at Brunswick Heads Hotel, live music, a Jack Daniels with Coke, beautiful night, beautiful vibe, grateful woman here. Thank you, Lynn, for making this possible, and for Jared to remind me to follow my doctor's orders. Thank you for bringing me to this season of joy. Some gorgeous women got me up dancing, a whole group of us twirling. It was awesome. Heading back to Brisbania now, smiley face. Moon over Lighthouse at Byron Bay. Wish I had a decent camera. It is awesome. And those are the moments, people of Earth, that I live for. Running free. Lynn must have, when I mentioned thanking Lynn there, she must have given me or lent me the petrol money so I could get there. And I obviously went there just for the afternoon and evening, came back home, right? Because I never have accommodation there. I can't afford accommodation, so my custom was I used to go, once a month or once a fortnight, whenever I could, for a day trip and just spend the day in the sea and looking at the lighthouse and looking at the shops and in the town itself and meeting the beautiful characters like that lovely man Wes. And that was my Zen zone where I go when I'm really distressed and stressed, for healing my mind, body and spirit. And if I were wealthy and could afford it, I would live there all year round. But it wasn't the cards that was gifted to me, was it, darlings? But it's time I went there again for another lovely day trip and just had a lovely time. It's long past time I went. People say I won't like it now, but they don't understand. It's not the fact that it's all built up and industrialised now. It's the fact, it's the ley lines and the scenery and the beach. None of those things change people. The culture might change, but the ley lines remain the same. And there's some lovely photos back in 2015. Now bear in mind, I was quite suicidal at that point in time. I was very unwell, very, very depressed, which would have been another reason why my doctor ordered me to go there and why Lynn made it financially possible, because they knew I was very, very mentally unwell at that point in time. But anyway, that's a photo of Socks and Mushu and Miss Penny all lounging around on my bed, being carefree and joyous. 1:59 a.m. I released a love that teased and tormented, cajoled and stymied, pushed and pulled on my heart and my energy. How I love him. It must end so I can be free. With freedom will come new love, real, tranquil and requited. So mote it be. No more reaching into the void of the avoidant. This one to come will let me know he chooses me. No more angst, no more constant striving to maintain connection with a shadow puppet. For all I know, he works for one of my enemies at the pub, a Judas henchman. Well, they all rode on the skirt tails of my fight for freedom and expression of joy. The final cut is the deepest, the only one I truly loved, another hollow hologram. Smoke and mirrors, baby. No longer can you leech my heart and soul. Tomorrow, the healing and connection to my inner spirituality at Byron, a clear run. Woman that runs with the wolves, leaving the pig in sheep's clothing to wallow in its own muck. I am free. And indeed I poured so much love into that one, and that one is Dave Charles. I poured so much love into that creature, and it took a long time for me to detach and close off that heart connection. It took years, and he was cruel for years too, by the way. Sometimes he wasn't, sometimes he'd speak to me and, we'd have chats, but overall it was cruel and sadistic and foul. But I poured so much love into that creature number 2, that he still follows me around, not by his own consciousness, I don't think, not deliberately, but at Christmas time or sometimes other times of the year. 2022 I saw him 4 times on the road, and last year I saw him twice on the road, in February and again on the 13th of December. So that's the bond that I formed with this entity, this low-life scum entity, right? Was actually my fault in a way, because I kept pouring love to him. No matter what, no matter how awful, I would just rise above and I would just keep constantly loving and loving and loving, till one day, round about after Socks's death, after I spoke to him actually after Socks's death in 2021, I realised I'm wasting all this love energy into an empty husk. He will only ever keep feeding off me and draining me and draining me, sucking all my love out of me. and it's stopping me from finding a real love who will return it to me in equal measure, right? That's how true love's supposed to work, by the way. You're supposed to give love, but you're supposed to be also receiving their love back as equals in equal measure, and with great joy and delight and romance and passion and trust and loyalty and fidelity, not these empty fucking pieces of fucking shit, by the way. Had another one last year. I want a deep connection. No, they just want to suck and use and fuck and drain. That's all they want. As soon as they come to, I want a deep connection. I think, okay, vampires, psychic vampires. But anyway, that one detached from me when he got COVID, so he must have realised I wasn't gonna let him drain me like the other men in my life have all drained me to the point of almost my own death, by the way. Not once, many, many times. So I'm looking for a man. Well, I've seen sweetness and romantic overtures show me, but it can't be consummated because that beautiful soul is married. But I'm looking for a man who is available to be with me, who is heartfelt and sincere and genuine and authentic and romantic and passionate and loyal and faithful to me. I'm looking for a man like that. I may never find a man like that, but I've been shown potentialities of what could be if the situation was different. And it's been beautiful, people, and I've delighted in it. Really have delighted in it, because I've never had that before, ever. Have a man reach out and say, I love you. He means as a friend, of course. Don't get me wrong. I'm not stupid, you know. But genuinely say, I love you, and, you know, wanting me to have enough money for fripperies and all that sweetness. Why wouldn't you love someone like that? Showing you actual generosity and kindness and sincerity, heartfelt, spiritual sincerity. But at the end of the night, he goes home to his wife in his own bed and makes love with his wife, and I go home alone. So I'm realistic about it too. Got to plug us some, people. But to have a real man really love me for the first time and hopefully the last time in my life, and be with me for the rest of our days on earth together as a loving couple, that to me would be absolute bliss and awe and magic and great delight. Because although I've had beautiful, solid, loving friendships like my friend Lynn and Jared, who've loved me deeply, I have yet to have found a sexual partner that loves me just as much and just as honourably and protectively and decently as my platonic friends. So, of course, you know, as a passionate woman that I am, I've craved that all my life, having a solid, stable, loyal, loving partner by my side. Anyway, what did I say to that beautiful Aboriginal man in Byron? I already have all these wonderful things. Let's not be greedy. It's human nature to crave what you don't have, what you see other people experiencing. True, loyal, passionate, romantic, faithful, joyful love. 6th of March 2014. Crap, off to bed. Big day tomorrow. Need to sleep. Supercharged, so we'll have to knock myself out again. Menopause makes me frustrated, horny, energized, mad, outrageous, supercharged, high, then low, then exhausted, then angry, then so happy I could die and it would be all right. Yeah, baby. Losing weight without trying thanks to my dying moans, dancing till I die, then recuperating, then doing it all again. Guess what? I am loving it. 6th of March 2012. Today is my father David Phillips' birthday. I don't know where he is and don't care to know. Last I heard, he was itinerant in Perth, WA, Western Australia. By now, he may be dead and no one has bothered to inform me. In my heart, he has died anyway, a long time ago, with his collusion and betrayals of me with Buck Shearer. Such is life. I adored my father as a child. He was a godlike figure of vast proportions in my innocent, rose-coloured, glassed eyes. At 20, the shards fell off when I was pregnant with Crystal and he behaved dishonourably to me. So I mention this only as a nod to the man who was my father eons ago, the man who attempted to love me and walked the rooms with me as I squalled in pain with my reflux and failure to thrive from the abuse and neglect and lack of stability I received from him, my mother, and my half-sister Angela. They tried to be parents to me, all three, but were so unstable they would forget to put nappies on me or inoculate me against disease and would hit me for soiling my bed, in this case my sister Angela, half-sister. So yes, I have loved these shallow, inadequate, cruel people who faked any love or affection for me then as now. My father I so adored, with his heat radiating from the small of his back, was the only human that could settle me as an infant to sleep. If not for the constant screaming and emotional disturbances as I lay in utero and up to the separation at almost 8 years of life, I might have had a much more stable life. So Dad, wherever you are, I know who you are and who you failed to be for me, you and my other primary caregivers. Angela, I am not dead as you wish me to be, but very, very much alive and aware. You're lost, babe. You can't hit me for shitting now, 'cause you shat in your own nest this time, and I know it. Sunday was an incredibly spiritual day for me. I had such a lovely time on Paltalk and was able to resonate and connect with about 4 or 5 people and offer support and counselling, so felt really appreciated and loved. Today was also a positive day. It's been amazing how much better I have begun to feel in my spirit since I had healing from my Native American Ojibwa Midewiwin man, which is a healer 3 ranks below medicine man. Life is good for now. Hopefully, I will continue to get stronger after my severe depression the last 2 weeks, and I am so blessed that my loving friends in my world and online rallied around me and buoyed me up again. You are my angels and shining lights. To you, my darlings. 6th of March 2011. Card collections and reminiscing on old times. I finished sorting through my cards. I tore up all the old engagement cards and most wedding cards. After 27 years, they no longer have any relevance. Most of the people who gave them are dead or out of contact for decades. Funny how life is. I still kept the nauseatingly immature and corny postcards Michael sent me in the beginning of our romance because they are the only love letters or postcards I have ever been sent in my entire life. Sad but true. And I just can't bear to destroy the only symbol of ever having been desired and or loved in my life. Maybe in another 27 years I'll trash them, but not now, lol. I'm going to leave the collection of birthday cards, etc., that I kept for both my daughters over many years to my girls. I'll leave them on Jared's door with a note to make sure he gives them to Crystal to send on to Jasmine. I kept only the cards that were given or sent to me from people over the years, the sentimental ones and the really arty, amazing ones for my collection. I've kept an artwork my girls did at Sinai College or as toddlers. Those I probably will never part with, but who knows. So a couple of years ago, I think last year or the year before, can't remember exactly when, Crystal came and we sorted through all the children's artworks and we threw the bulk of it out. And I had literally stored some of them since she was like 3 years old, or her first little drawings, you know. She wasn't the least bit sentimental about any of it, so it all went in the fire. And in a way I was a bit upset because I had treasured and cherished all their artworks, primarily because every artwork or story I wrote as a child, my mother and father threw in the bin and didn't even encourage or praise me. And it's how I developed a lot of low self-esteem issues, by the way, even as a young child. So I learnt early that if I wrote something that was praised by a teacher or given a good mark, I would take it to my friend and neighbour, Mrs. June Robertson, who was like a proxy mother for me. And I would say, "Oh, Mrs. Robertson, I wrote a story today. Would you like to read it?" She would invariably get me to read it out to her. And then she would take it and pin it up on her, her notice board and praise me and praise me and praise me. And tell me what a brilliant writer I was and that I would grow up to be an author one day. Well, that never happened. But my writings are up here on Focal Media. And she would praise my pictures and paintings and any little art projects. I took them all to her because that woman was a true mother to me and valued me as a human being, as a child on planet Earth. One of the few adults in my life that indeed did value me. To you, June Robertson, a real mother, a loving mother, the only mother I had ever had really in my childhood. I had many women, older women, step forward in my life wanting to mother me later on in life, but she was the first and the most devoted and the best. My beautiful June, Mrs. June Robertson. 6th of March 2010. My mother is on the downhill slide to eternity now. She has an infection, therefore fever and dehydrated. well, she'd been dehydrated for 3 weeks. They withheld fluids and food. It was awful, just awful. But she'd lost the capacity to swallow with the Alzheimer's, so that was part of the end of her days on earth. A woman who loved food and drink so very, very much. Soon will come the time to let her go. Update. She died the next day on 7th of March. I begged her spirit as she lay in unconsciousness to choose her own death date, not my father's birthday on the 6th, or the death date of my grandmother Eva's suicide on 8th of March. So she slipped comfortably on the 7th of March 2010, sandwiched between those 2 days. And thus concludes my readings of even date. I'm a bit exhausted, as you can imagine. 2 hours and 21 minutes. I'm sure you're a bit exhausted if you've stayed on this journey with me. But I hope you gleaned some insights into my life experiences, into our shared humanity, into our post-traumatic growth, I call it, coming from my traumatic childhood and 30s and 40s and up to the age 50 when I attempted suicide. Life is better now, but I still have a long way to go. I need to find my true love partner. I need to find a way to support myself financially independent of the government. That's a tall ask. Don't think I'll ever manage that. And I need to find better health, and I need to find peace and joy with someone who loves me truly and deeply for the rest of my days here on planet Earth. And I need to be surrounded by my tribe of loving friends, family, business associates, acquaintances, out in the night when I go dancing, which I have been shown that in recent months. I am grateful for that. People who vibe with me, who jibe with me, who treat me with great love and honour and integrity and joy and bliss and companionship and sweetness and kindness to you, my lovely ones. And on that note, I've got to go. I've got to have my debrief for another hour or so. I have to leave soon. So another cup of tea is in order, I think, and I'll go and spend some time with Miss Charlie. And life is beautiful, people. Remember, in the darkest and most scarifying, excoriating, terrifying times, remember to never give up. Remember the few souls on this earth that loved you, like Mrs. June Robertson and Mrs. Sylvia Shine, my mummies, my mothers and by proxy, who inspired me to keep going, keep hoping, keep blossoming on my branch of the tree of life. Remember to never ever let the bastards grind you down, no matter how legion they are. And in my life, at times, especially in 2015, they certainly were fucking legion. And remember that at the end of every storm, there is a new sunshine and clear skies and happiness awaiting you. So never ever give up. I came close to it a few times in my life, and I'm glad that the gods literally vomited me back to earth and kicked me along, and at times even dragged me by the hair, because this is my becoming, and this is it, right here and right now, my beautiful souls of planet Earth. And I know some of you are cheering me on to find my truly loving partner as well. And my spirit senses that he's close to me and imminent to making a declaration of true, abiding, loyal, faithful love to me, and he will demonstrate that by his heartfelt, sincere actions as well as words and energy. So I hope my beautiful man lands for me soon. I'm looking forward to something beautiful manifesting at long last. So bye for now, people of Earth, and take good care and remain joyous in your spirit. Happiness is the ultimate and best revenge, always and forever. Love to you all. Peace out. Shalom.